Okay, so welcome to office hours for the AP assignment on writing strong strong introduction paragraphs. In the assignment today, you are going to be doing error analysis, revising a different introduction, and then revising your own introduction. So if you are right now opening this video, but you have not finished the Nearpod directions and you have not opened this Google document, you need to pause right now this video, and I need you to finish the Nearpod directions, and then open the document for assignment 1, writing a strong space introduction. Once you have that done, we can get started. Okay, so in the assignment today for the Google document, you're going to do 3 parts. Like I said in the directions piece, you're going to go to error analysis. So you're going to be looking at student examples for the Cesar Chavez essay. Then you're going to be looking at essay examples for other types of revision paragraphs, essay introduction paragraphs, and you're going to be revising them. You don't have to do both. You only have to do one. And then the last part, your exit ticket, is that you're going to copy paste your original introduction from last week's Cesar Chavez rhetorical analysis, and you're going to rewrite the paragraph in a better way in the second part. Okay, so let's start with the student example. So for the error analysis, basically what I want you to be doing is that you're going to be looking at students who have struggled to do an accurate rhetorical analysis of the Cesar Chavez text. Not every student struggled in terms of that they clearly didn't understand the text. Maybe it was just like a struggle in communication in their introductory paragraph. But the introductory paragraph is super important. It's the first impression that you make based off of the rhetorical analysis and like your understanding of the text. And so you want to make sure that you start strong. Okay, so the biggest things that you're going to do to improve your score here is you're going to be able to differentiate, like, are the students simply summarizing the article, or do they effectively call out the aspects of the rhetorical situation? So there's a difference between being able to understand who the speaker, context, audience, exigence, all of those elements are, versus just summarizing what happened. So we want to make sure that we are not summarizing at any point in our introduction what the whole article was about. And then the second part is that you want to make sure like your strong understanding of the text shines through in your introduction, right? That you understand who the speaker was, Cesar Chavez in this case, what his purpose was, right? Why did he write this article? Who his audience is. It's obviously targeted, based off of what we talked about last week, it's obviously targeted at religious and low socioeconomic audiences because it is in a religious magazine. And so how do you show that connection in your introduction? What is the important historical and political context here? And what would be the spark that led him to write this? So most of this information you can also find when you're doing when you're reading the little blurb introducing the text, but it's also shown with your understanding of the text in general. Okay, so for these student samples, there's 3 student samples. You're going to look at them and you're going to just make sure that they're effective. And the way that you're going to be doing that is you're not rewriting them, you are just simply scoring them and giving your rationale. So you're scoring them out of 10, with a 5 being a C minus. So like if a 5 is a C minus, a 10 is an A plus, a 6 is a C, 7 is a B, so on and so forth, right? So out of 10, what would you score that introduction? And why? Okay, so that's what you're doing for these examples. And I'm going to do the first one with you, okay? I added this checklist so that you can see like what are all the elements of the introduction that you want to be on there. The hook, right, is the first sentence that your reader is going to read. You want to make a connection to the topic, either historically or philosophically or academically. I did put personally in there, but you want to stay away from that. That's like if you're blank and you have nothing in your mind on how to make a connection, like try to do something, but try to shy away from personal connections. Every introduction has to have a strong hook, background. So this is where you're giving me that context, exigence, audience, speaker, purpose. That's all in this piece. And then your thesis, which includes the author's name, the rhetorical choices, the marker verbs, and author's purpose. So this is going to sound like in Cesar Chavez's article, he uses juxtaposition, diction, and imagery to reveal the necessity of nonviolent protest, right? That's going to be like what a thesis might sound like. So we're looking for these three elements. Do they hook us? Is there a clear background? Is there a thesis? So let's go look at student example number 1. On Martin Luther King Jr.'s 10th anniversary of his death, Cesar Chavez wrote in a magazine about uniting people again through nonviolence towards equality. A little bit confusing here. I do like the idea of uniting people again, because I think that shows that they understood the purpose of the text. The purpose of the text is to unite people to the cause of nonviolence, but it's just written a little bit unclearly. Cesar wants people to be aware that inequality is still happening and people should act in no violence. Or people, this one is awkward, so I would rephrase. I'm just going to jot that here as like awkward rephrase. Okay. Inequality is still happening. So when you say something like Cesar Chavez wants people to be aware that inequality is still happening, you need to add a little bit more to that. Like what inequality is still happening and how does he communicate that? You want to be more specific in that piece. So what inequality? Like be more specific. Name it. Cesar Chavez uses diction, juxtaposition, and allusion to suggest that people should continue fighting for equality in a non-violent way. I would probably just change this like using fighting for equality with non-violence or in non-violent ways. But overall, their thesis is there and it has all the elements we want. So their thesis is really good to go. And I think that they understood why Cesar Chavez wrote this. I know that because it says that the goal is to unite people. But this student sample is just lacking a little bit of finesse, right? That sophistication. And so like out of 10, I would probably give this person like a 7 out of 10, right? A 6 if you guys want to be critical, which you guys often are of each other, but a 7 out of 10. One thing the student could do to improve their writing is to include a clear exigence, the spark for writing. They say inequality is still happening, but they need to be more concrete. Add the concrete details. I think that they also say that it's like on Martin Luther King Jr.'s 10th anniversary, but explain how that like is a legacy in itself, right? I think that this person could have worked on their hook by adding a little bit more of like why they're even talking about Martin Luther King Jr. and then just talk about like how Cesar Chavez is situated within this idea of civil rights and a movement towards equality that includes people of color, and it's a legacy from years ago, right? Martin Luther King Jr. died 10 years ago for this cause. Cesar Chavez 10 years later is still fighting for the same cause. And so that would be something that would hook your reader in, right? Student could work on their hook to draw reader in, right? But I think that those draw the reader in. I think that those are the biggest points. One thing the student did well is have a clear thesis. Boom. So that's basically all I would want you to do in this piece, right? That's all. I just want you to grade it, and I want you to give me a brief rationale as to why you would grade it that way. If you want to add in like your revisions, add in your revisions. This is as much as you get out of it. So if you put in a lot of effort to think about how you would revise something, that's going to help you in the long run become a better writer, okay? So you're going to do that for example 2 and example 3. When you're finished with those student grading and explaining your rationale for your grade for those 3 student introductions, I want us to practice with a different type of outline. I added this outline not because you have to use it, but it's helpful to kind of think about how many sentences you're writing for your introduction and what you're including. Basically, the goal is to just include all the elements of space, but however you do it is fine as long as they're all there. But here is like a quick 1 through 4 sentence guide of how you could do this. So like you could add the context and then identify the speaker. Then from the context, you move into the exigence and explain why this exists now, what's the urgency, and then what the speaker does in response to their exigence. So because of this happening, the speaker is calling to action, doing this speech for what purpose. So it goes from like context, exigence, purpose to then acknowledging the audience. And when you do those things, you've added all the elements of space, and you can move into your thesis. So I gave like a fake outline exemplar of a different rhetorical analysis essay. This is for a different rhetorical analysis that you're not looking at, but I don't want us to think about the content so much as how they use those 4 sentences. So if you guys want to read through that, when you look at the revision practice 1, I added a link to the text if you want to look at it. But what I want you to do is try to put their revision, their introductory essay, this is a student introduction, into those 4 sentences. Okay? So you are rewriting this into those 4 sentences here. Okay? You don't need to do both. The other one is extra credit. You don't need to do both. You just need to at least do one. When you're finished revising that, the last part of your assignment today is to revise your own Cesar Chavez introduction. So you're going to copy and paste your original introduction here, and you're going to include new elements here. The reason I want you to copy and paste your first draft of your introductory paragraph, just the introductory paragraph, is because I want to be able to note the differences between your first draft and your second draft. You're not going to have a lot of time to draft multiple drafts of your rhetorical analysis essay on the exam that is happening in 23 days. But this way you can start to look at how you can refine your writing. Maybe you are really proud of your introduction, but it's 8 sentences. Then your revision should be that same content, that same effort in 4 sentences, right? 4 to 5 sentences max is what your introduction should be. Like we saw with the student example number 1, that person only wrote 3 sentences, and really all they needed to add was maybe 1 more or just refine the sentences they already have. So that's basically what I wanted you guys to get away from this assignment before we move on to our next rhetorical analysis on Wednesday. So once you're finished with your revision here, you're going to submit your assignment on Canvas, share with editing rights, submit on Canvas to me, and then that's it for your assignment today. So let me know if you have any questions, and good luck. Have fun.